a busy year for the world's biggest rock band. The Rolling Stones kicked it off with a tour of Latin America that ended in March in front of 500,000 fans in Havana.
So how are you feeling about the band these days?
Band's rocking, man. No, it's kind of weird at our age, but it's getting better.
In October, the Stones joined a lineup of legends that included Paul McCartney, Roger Waters, Bob Dylan, and The Who at the Desert Trip Festival in California.
How'd you like Desert Trip?
It was very dusty, but it was fun.
You were a little wary ahead of time about a concert with
Too many white people. Old white English people.
Did you enjoy playing?
Yeah, very much. And the fact, I mean, to have Bob Dylan like to open up for you is sort of, in a way, ludicrous. And then, of course, the second week, he gets the Nobel Prize.
Now you got a Nobel winner in opening for you.
Yeah, right. I want mine for chemistry, you know.
They're ending the year by releasing an unexpected album. Blue and Lonesome, a classic blues record, is their first studio album in more than a decade. And no one was more surprised than the Stones themselves.
None of us would have ever looked at each other in the eye and said, let's make a blues album.
It had to happen on its own.
Yeah, and it just happens right there and then. Just keep rolling.
It happened at Mark Knopfler's London studio last December. The Stones had booked session time and started playing some old blues songs just to warm up the room.
It's just an organic little moment that happened.
Yeah, it was an organic little moment. And Keith would say it was meant to be, the stars were aligned. I mean, and it's all true.
And you sort of felt that you were being compelled to do it by some higher being or something.
Over 3 days, they hit a blues streak and knocked out a dozen songs.
And you pretty much did them live?
Yeah, straight through live. I've never done a record like that. I mean, not even in 1963 or whenever it was.
When it was done, were you thinking there's an album here?
I just thought we've got a damn load of good tracks here, and maybe it's going to end up in the archives or something. It took Mick a little while to be persuaded.
You weren't so sure?
No. I think it's really nice and everything, but who's going to buy it? But the record company said, no, we can put it out. They wanted to put it out for Christmas.
And here we are.
On it.
Blue and Lonesome takes the Rolling Stones back to their roots.
We started this band to play music like that, and then, of course, things got bigger, and then we started writing ourselves, and then it became pop music. But this has always been the basic roots of the band.
Keith and Mick bonded over the blues back in 1961 at the Dartford train station, when Keith noticed some albums under Mick's arm.
I'm carrying this record means it's a chat invitation.
It's a badge of some kind.
It's a badge, yeah.
I said, what you got under your arm, man? The Best of Muddy Waters and Rockin' at the Hops by Chuck Berry. Anyways, the guy on the station called Mick Jagger.
Keith wrote about the meeting.
April 1962. You sent this from home.
Mm-hmm.
In a letter to his aunt.
Beside that, Mick is the greatest R&B singer this side of the Atlantic, and I don't mean maybe. I'm playing guitar, Chuck style.
Chuck Berry.
Yeah, that'll be Chuck Berry, yeah.
Richards and Jagger, who'd both turned 19 that year, began playing Saturday nights at a basement blues club in West London.
Was that where you started to test out your style, if you will?
I'd done it before that, actually. So I used to sing with rock bands when I was 16. I did stuff, you know, dance around. People liked it. And I went home and didn't tell my parents what I'd done.
What would they have thought if you did?
I don't know. The rock music was for, like, uneducated working class people. So my parents wouldn't have approved of it.
So you didn't want to tell them?
No.
No.
So the blues and folk music had a kind of weird respectability. You could have, it's hard to believe this now, but in those days. So it was slightly more respectable to play blues and folk music was to play rock music.
At the Ealing Jazz Club, Jagger and Richards would meet Charlie Watts and Brian Jones. When the new band booked its first gig in July of '62, Jones found its name on the back of that Best of Muddy Waters LP. Side 1, track 5, The Rolling Stones were born. The rest, of course, is rock and roll history. More than half a century of it now, on display in New York at Exhibitionism, a collection of Rolling Stones memorabilia that opened last month. It includes a recreation of the band's first apartment, a second-floor flat at number 102 Edith Grove in London's Chelsea neighborhood.
Does it actually look like your place?
Yeah, it really does.
It's so uncannily accurate that I felt that I'm home.
How many of you were living in that room?
Brian, Mick, and me. Charlie refused to come there.
They'd live at Edith Grove for less than a year, but it would be the cradle of the Rolling Stones sound.
Brian Jones and I used to sit around in that old room just trying to figure out how these guitar players worked their stuff together, their evil magic.
The next year, the Stones would ride the blues classic Little Red Rooster to the top of the British charts. Many of their blues heroes never stopped playing, like Buddy Guy, still performing at 80. Jagger is now 73, and Richards will match him later this month. But the Rolling Stones somehow seem eternal, their past still present.
Do you ever run out of things that you want to do?
No, I just want to see how long the string is.
What aspirations do you have for the band? Sorry, big head. I mean, I don't know.
What's there left?
Well,
there always things weirdly present themselves. I mean, there's a certain thing you have to keep going.
But I guess what I'm asking is, do you have to keep going?
No, of course not. You could have stopped 20 years ago if you wanted.
But you are still going.
No, I am. So I don't really explain that. It's just not something you analyze. You create a momentum yourself, and then some interesting things come up which are outside of the ordinary. But you never know you're going to play in Cuba the first time or make a blues album in 3 days. They just come up. And that's, you know, it reinvigorates your interest.
This never gets old to you.
No, it gets more interesting, actually. And as long as I've got a solid group of guys around me, I feel immortal for a little while. On stage, sometimes I feel immortal.
That's going to be a great feeling.
Yeah, it is a great feeling. I know I'm blessed. I know that. I'll come back as a frog.
I want to talk about your blues roots because, I mean, I think a lot of people forget where, you know, how you guys really started.
Yeah.
I asked this question to Pete Townsend a few years ago when we were talking because it always amazed me that sort of polka dotted across Britain were these groups of young men who all at the same time seemed to discover the American blues.
Yeah.
What do you think happened?
The thing is, I mean, when I was thinking about it, yes, it is pretty strange you think about it, but there was a lot of visiting blues artists, and there was only 1.5 TV channels, and they put them on these TV channels, so that was your introduction. So you saw like film clips of old blues artists like Lead Belly, who was still alive. Yeah. You got visitors that came repeatedly, like Sonny Terry, Brownie McGhee.
Is that how you found?
Yeah, I think Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee was the first blues people I saw when I was really young on TV. Big Bull Brunsey was another one. And
what did you think when you saw him?
Well, I thought it was different, you know. So it's different kind of music and different approach, different feeling of entertainment. You know, it's different kind of entertainment than the kind of pop singers that were on TV.
I asked Mick this, and I've actually asked a bunch of your contemporaries this question, because it's one of the things that really fascinates me about what happened in England in the late 50s, which was that, you know, so many of you guys in different parts of the country latched onto this music. And I still am not quite sure how that happened.
Actually, it was a fascination with American music.
Yeah.
That was what it was down to. If America's given anything to this world, apart from democracy and everything like that,
was there a parenthesis there?
Yeah. It's been music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been what American music has flooded the world, because it actually comes from Africa, from Italy, from wherever.
What's particularly interesting to me is that, I mean, you guys picked out music that wasn't easy to get.
No, it was hard to find. I mean, aficionados, you know, and die-hard maniacs. But you know, when things are like that, no matter where it is, they tend to find each other and you know, lock in and flock together, and so records will start to be passed around.
Which was the source of your connection with Mick.
Yeah, exactly. It was astounding to me to sit and I known the guy. We've known each other since 4 or 5 years old, and then lost contact, you know, because of school regulations and stuff like that.
Right.
And then to bump into the man, and you know, with his, I said, "What you got under your arm, man?" You know, and it's a Muddy Waters, the best of Muddy Waters, and Rockin' at the Hops by Chuck Berry. And this stuff, I've been, you know, how did you get that, man? I rode away to Chess Records, and they were mail order, you know. I said, oh man, I got to listen to that. And then we discovered that, you know, after all of those childhood years had gone by, that we both hooked into the same thing, you know. Except he had the merchandise and I didn't.
Once you guys all got together, what were you hoping for?
We were hoping to be the hippest club band in London. This is the place to be. You know, this is where you're going to hear music you haven't heard before. And we were like very idealistic in those days. You know, 18, you know, 19. It was like almost a missionary thing, you know, without the celibacy.
We've lost a lot of kind of legends this year, musically. I mean, when you see that happening, what do you think?
Legends.
Bowie, Prince.
Oh, natural attrition.
Natural. That's what you call it?
Yeah. Leon Russell went yesterday. Yeah. I mean, the further you go down the pike, you know, fewer and fewer friends are left around.
What does that say to you, if anything?
It gives you a sense of proportion, I suppose. And I told you I'd outlive you. Because I was the most likely to die for many years. But that was, yeah.
Does it make you feel more mortal?
Mortality, yeah, it does, actually, to tell the truth. Yeah, it does. I mean, when friends drop by the wayside, you know, and you get mad at them and say, "You're leaving me here alone?" You know, and it's one of those things. But this is what will happen to you all if you get as lucky to get as old as I am. You know.
You've always been convinced of your own the strength of your own constitution.
Oh yeah, but I don't. I mean, also I know how long my string is.
Is it feeling shorter these days?
Of course, you know. But I'm prepared to face the maker.
So you've had that conversation with yourself?
Yeah, and me and the Lord. Yeah.
You've talked.
Yeah, we're on good terms.
This never gets old to you?
No, it gets more interesting, actually. I mean, the weird thing is that every time I play Satisfaction, I'm I'm finding like new ways, just a little lick here and a little bit there, and Charlie, and I was like, shit, man, wish we'd have put that on the record, you know.
Yeah.
But the fact is that the way things go, you wrote songs, and 5 days later you've recorded it. You barely know the thing, you know.
It's true.
And then you take it on the road for 50 years. I'm starting to get the hang of it now.
Yeah. And you find things you never even saw in it.
Yeah, certain licks and certain, oh, I wish I had that on the record, you know. But I mean, that's, at least we have the record.